Eren Yeager. You know, I don't think any character in modern storytelling has sparked more debate, more passion, and more division than him. He starts out as the boy who swears he's going to save humanity, and he becomes the man who commits global genocide. So together, let's dive into that central, impossible question. Was he a hero or was he a villain?
And look, this isn't just some fan debate. This is something the creator himself, Hajime Isayama, admits he still wrestles with. This one quote tells you everything. It shows you just how intentionally complex, how ambiguous Eren was designed to be. It's a clear signal that there is no easy answer here. Not at all.
So that's the real journey we're on today. We're going to trace the steps, we're going to look at the pressures, and we'll try to understand the philosophy behind the transformation. How does a symbol of hope become a harbinger of doom?
To really get the ending, you have to go all the way back to the beginning. Before the rumbling, before all the betrayal. There was just a boy. A hero that, let's be honest, we all believed in. I mean, his origin story is just pure righteous tragedy. As a kid, he watches a Titan eat his own mother. In that one horrific moment, his entire life's purpose is forged in absolute rage and grief. He even saves Mikasa from traffickers, showing that even as a child he was willing to use violence to protect the innocent. And then in the Survey Corps, they literally called him humanity's hope.
Back then, everything was so much simpler, wasn't it? The moral lines were crystal clear. His goal was freedom, getting out from behind those walls. His enemy was obvious, the giant monsters trying to eat them. It was a classic, uncomplicated story of good versus evil.
And then, everything changed. Just one moment, one single touch, and it sent him down a path that would darken everything he ever stood for. This, right here, was the turning point. So, through the bizarre power of the attacked Titan, when he made contact with royal blood, he saw the future. But he didn't see some glorious victory or lasting peace. No. He saw a future where he himself becomes the world's greatest monster. He saw the genocide he would commit. He saw everything, and he was completely trapped by it.
You can only imagine what that knowledge did to him. Psychologically, it shattered him. It's a textbook case of what we call cognitive dissonance. I mean, how can you be a freedom fighter when you know, for a fact, that you are destined to become the ultimate oppressor? This internal war, this paradox, it just began to eat away at the boy we knew.
From that moment on, Eren began this deliberate, methodical transformation. He wasn't just slipping into darkness. He was marching right into it with his eyes wide open, building his own reputation as the villain the world needed to fear.
Let's just look at the steps. First, he attacks Liberio. He kills innocent civilians, women, children, all to force Paradis into a war. Second, he completely isolates himself, emotionally destroying the two people he loves most in the world, Mikasa and Armin. And finally, the big one. He unleashes the rumbling, a cataclysm designed to exterminate billions.
This moment, it perfectly captures the cruelty he chose to wear like a mask. Saying this line to the one person who has dedicated her entire life to protecting him, for so many people, this was the moment the hero truly died. It just felt irredeemable.
Okay, so we've seen his actions, but can they be justified? This is where we have to kind of step back and look at the horrifying moral choices in his world and apply some real-world philosophy to the impossible situation he was in.
And to be fair, Eren wasn't just making this up in a vacuum. He was basically presented with two monstrous plans. His brother Zeke wanted to use the Founder's power to sterilize all of their people, which would lead to a peaceful extinction. Eren's plan, on the other hand, was to destroy the rest of the world to save his people. One sacrifices his home, the other sacrifices the world. There really was no good option.
So let's try to use a moral framework. First up, utilitarianism. This philosophy is pretty simple. It argues that the best action is the one that creates the most good for the most people. It's basically a numbers game.
From a utilitarian point of view, the rumbling is an absolute moral catastrophe. It causes the suffering and death of the vast majority of the world's population, all for the benefit of a tiny island of people. The math just doesn't work. It's not even close.
Okay, so let's try another lens, deontology. Now, this framework doesn't really care about the outcome. It says certain actions, like murder, are just flat out wrong, period. The means matter way more than the ends.
So, under deontology, the conclusion is exactly the same. The act of genocide is fundamentally, unequivocally immoral. It doesn't matter if it saves Paradis. It doesn't even matter if it somehow creates lasting world peace.
The act itself is a monstrous evil.
But there is one last and much more controversial philosophy to think about: psychological egoism. This view suggests that all human actions are, at their core, motivated by self-interest, and that acting in your own interest is the actual basis of morality.
Now, through this very specific and kind of dark lens, Eren's actions could actually be seen as justified. His self-interest wasn't about gaining personal power, it was about the survival of his people, his friends, his home. By acting to preserve them above all else, an egoist would argue he was acting morally. It's really the only framework where his choice finds any kind of justification.
So we've analyzed the monster, we've looked at the philosophies, but the story isn't over. The finale of Attack on Titan pulls back one last curtain, and it reveals a truth that changes everything we thought we knew.
Because here's the crucial truth, the final twist. Eren never actually intended to complete the rumbling. The monster who seemed so hell-bent on total annihilation, he had a different, far more complicated endgame in mind the entire time.
He planned to destroy 80% of the world. Think about that number. It was a horrifically precise calculation. He figured it was just enough to cripple the world's military, to stop them from ever retaliating against Paradise, but he left just enough survivors for his friends to save. He set the whole thing up so that the people he pushed away would be the ones to stop him, making them the heroes who saved humanity.
And in his final moments, that cold, calculating mask just falls away. In this heartbreaking confession to Armin, he reveals the scared, selfish kid that was still inside him all along. He wasn't some god passing judgment. He was a tragic kid who sacrificed his own soul, became the world's most hated devil, and gave up his own life, all so his friends could live long, happy lives.
So this is where we're left. He is a monster. He is a savior. He's a traumatized boy who is given the power of a god, and he chose the most horrific path imaginable to protect the very few people he loved. He saved his friends, but at the cost of billions of lives. So the question isn't just whether he was a hero or a villain. The real question is, was it worth it?